Now, you are a serial entrepreneur.
I confess.
What does that mean?
It means I can't stop making stuff.
Brilliant.
Just never ending, making stuff.
Stuff, okay. And you are in the business world, you are a HR consultant.
I am.
And so tell me about that journey.
Well, I used to be a potter, so I was in the creative world to begin with, and then of course my marriage broke up and I had to get serious and get a proper job and earn some proper money. Yeah. So I became a personnel manager, then an HR manager, which I absolutely loved because I love working with people. And decided that because HR is usually first cab off the rank if there's a recession, they're usually the first people that go. So I decided to make my career a bit safer, I guess, and become an HR consultant in my own right, so that no one could make me redundant.
Right. And
sadly, of course, a part of my work now, because I've been doing that for about 30 years, sadly a part of that work is that I have to make other people redundant, which is something that I really dislike. But the first time that I was called in to do that, I don't think I slept a wink that night beforehand. And I thought, okay, how am I going to handle this? Because these are people's lives, and I knew these people, I worked with them. So what I would say to each of them was, you can either make this the worst day of your life, or you can make it the best.
Wow.
So just have a think about that, because I want you to make it the best. I want you to think about the doors that will open as a result of this situation. And I think at that time people thought I was mad.
So if a person is going to make it the best day of their life, how do they do that?
Well, it's a little bit like you have to make a decision that stuff happens. And it happens to all of us, doesn't it? You're chugging along thinking life's all cruisy, and then suddenly something happens. And you can either lie down and wallow and feel sad and sorry for yourself for the next 20 years, or you can say, okay, well, stuff happens, and what am I going to do about it? Yeah.
What advice would you give to people to make themselves redundant proof?
Yeah, well, the challenge with a lot of the people that I have to sit with is that they haven't kept their skills up to date. Yeah. We get into cruise mode and I talk about the 45 plus people, the 45 age group. We kind of think, oh, well, I'm probably not going to go any higher. It's just my job's just down the road, or I'm paid really well. So, and they move into this cruise mode.
The comfort zone.
Yeah. And of course then what happens is they stop upskilling, and of course most companies are having to constantly watch the bottom line. So if you think about the salary that they pay a 45 to 50-year-old, they can probably get 2 young people for that price.
Yes.
So they have to look at the value that people bring to their business, especially if people's skills are now obsolete, they have no value.
And actually young people now are so savvy about technology.
Yeah, they do. They bring a lot of skills, but they also there's some things that older people can bring that the younger ones don't. So what I say to the 45 plus people is, before the redundancy thing comes up, is the first thing is, every time your boss, your manager, your owner says to you, or anybody who wants to learn or who wants to go on an XYZ course, get your hand up. Go on anything and everything you can. Right. Because you might get there and think, well, this is of no use to me. And down track you might think, oh my goodness, that was exactly what I needed to learn. Or that was the exact person. You might be sitting next to the person who could be your next employer.
That advice that you're giving people when they're facing redundancy, or ideally before, you're actually putting that into a book right now.
Yes, I am. It was interesting, I wrote an article, because I write a lot of articles, because that's really the test for my next book. Yes. I'll see what people seem to be interested in. And I wrote an article and I called it, You're Never Too Old, and It's Never Too Late.
Oh, I like that.
And I was staggered at the response it got. Yeah. So from that, I started chatting on LinkedIn to these 45 plus people who were facing the redundancy proposition. And so that's what I thought, okay, that actually has to be the next book I write. Yeah. It has to be for people, because if you're 45 and 50, you're starting to think, oh my gosh, I'm not getting any younger. We're designed to live for 120 years.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Scary thought.
To live that long.
Scary thought. But 45 isn't even halfway.
No.
And it's only when you make the mental decision that you're too old, that your body says, okay, well, you're too old. Yeah. So you've got to keep telling your brain, I want to keep learning. I talk about learn, unlearn, relearn. And we have to do that every single day. And I think you and I talked about the fact that I'm 70 next year.
Are you really?
I am. And I am still wanting to get up every day to learn what next. And my little granddaughter, 8 years old, is teaching me how to use a smartphone.
Wow.
You know, you've got to keep this going.
Yeah. So when are you going to retire?
Never.
Good.
Never. In fact, I've joked and said that the day they're nailing down the coffin lid, I'll be kicking it off saying, sorry, I've got another book I need to write. How to face death or something, I don't know. Whatever.
So how do you keep going? What is the recipe? Because there are plenty of people way younger than you who are kind of sitting at home, you know, crocheting.
To me, it's just keep doing stuff. You know, the sad part of our workplace is that, and I'd step back even to before the workplace. Yeah. We're in school and we're, you know, chugging along, doing all the things that we're supposed to be doing at school. And inside your little heart is going, I so want to be an artist. I so want to be a musician. And people say, oh, you can't make money doing that. Get a proper job. Yeah. And so we're directed along this proper job thing. And, you know, about 30 or 40 or 45, our little heart starts dying because we haven't done the thing that we wanted to do, or, you know, because everybody said you can't do it. Yes. There's a wonderful, wonderful quote by Richard Bach. He's the man that wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull. You probably haven't even heard of that. It's an old movie. It's about a seagull who wanted to fly higher than anyone had ever flown before. And all the seagulls said, you can't do that. But he did, and he kept flying higher. I think he killed himself in the end, but he flew higher.
I do like a happy ending.
Yeah, I know. Feathers were flying. But Richard Bach has this lovely quote, and it's above my desk. If you think your purpose on life is done, if you're alive, it isn't.
Oh, I love that.
I just love that.
I love that. I love your whole philosophy.
Thank
that
you.
Actually you know you're never too old, are you?
Never too old, and it's never too late.
Fabulous. That's great advice for all of us. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Kay.